Hey, what's happening guys? This is Bharat and today we're going to be reviewing the new Sony Xperia XZ. So let's get started. The Sony Xperia XZ is available for 48 to 49,000 rupees, and I'll leave a link to the best price and to buy it in the description below. Now, the Xperia XZ turns out to be the first flagship from Sony this year, and it's right up there with the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, the HTC 10, and other devices from LG including the G5, and even things like the iPhone and the Google Pixel. Price-wise, it sits well under the 50,000 rupee price bracket, which is a good thing, and the pricing seems to be right for Sony this time around. It does lack a certain bit of things in terms of the hardware, but it lives up in terms of design and performance. So let's do a quick one-over with the device for those who are not aware of the Sony Xperia XZ. Over at the front, you do get a 13 megapixel camera, which sits above the 5.2-inch 1920 by 1080p display with the 424 pixel per inch pixel density. You also get Corning Gorilla Glass. The phone does have forward-firing speakers, and the Android buttons sit on screen. On the bottom, you do have a USB Type-C port this time around. Over to the right is the main power button, which does have a fingerprint sensor, the volume rockers, and a dedicated camera shutter button. The top still houses the 3.5mm headphone jack, and over to the back you get a 23 megapixel camera with an f2 aperture and a bunch of focus assist sensors. So you get a laser autofocus sensor, RGBC IR sensor, you also get an LED flash. Inside is a 2900 mAh battery, and everything runs on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 820 chipset along with the Adreno 530 GPU. You get 64GB of onboard storage and 3GB of RAM. Now, the two downsides of the hardware on the Sony Xperia XZ seem to be the 1080p display and the 3GB of RAM. So let's start off with the display. The display is a nice and vivid display from Sony, a 5.2 inches. It's not too big and it's not too small. You get excellent viewing angles thanks to it being an IPS LCD display, and it works really well indoors as well as outdoors thanks to the nice brightness. You do get a triluminous display technology and an X-Reality engine. That means that the colors really pop, and it's almost pleasing every time you look at the screen of the Sony Xperia XZ because of the way the colors are portrayed. Black levels are really deep, and leaving out only the resolution, which sits only at 1920 by 1080p. However, you will only notice the difference in the 1080p to 2K resolution if you use VR a lot. So if you're going to be using virtual reality headsets with your phone, you will see the need for extra pixels on the screen. Now, as far as performance is concerned, the Snapdragon 820 is quite a reliable chipset, and it does heat up a slight bit, but thanks to the Alkaleido body of the Sony Xperia XZ, the heat dissipation is great. The phone manages to remain cool on the motherboard, so you get good performance overall. The Adreno 530 is also more than capable of handling all sorts of graphic intensive tasks that you want to throw at it, including high-level games and any other thing that you would want to do with your phone. You can easily render 4K videos as well in case you decide to do that on the Xperia XZ. Now, a limitation to playing games and performance comes to the 3GB of RAM. Seems to be less, but it's not, and it should be sufficient for almost all sorts of tasks. You will find that your device is running low on RAM if you use any of those monitoring applications, but it does not affect the usage or the performance of the phone in any way. Now, the phone is very well built. It's got a loop design that Sony calls it now, which means that if you lay it flat on the floors, it's rounded off on all sides. So it feels extremely comfortable in the hand. It's really well balanced with a weight of only 161 grams for the size, and a really premium build with the aluminum Alkaleido finish at the back. Phone looks fantastic. It's available in three colors: the blue color that you see, a black color, and the silver color that we checked out earlier, out of which I feel that the blue and the black seem to be the best colors. All these colors are nice to look at. They are satin finished, which means that they're not very glossy, but they do attract fingerprints quite a lot, and you'll find yourself cleaning the smudges and the fingerprints from the back of the phone quite a lot. The Alkaleido material is supposed to be more durable than traditional aluminum, and we didn't find a real way to test that, but it seems to be avoiding scratches quite a lot. With Sony's Timescape-like user interface on Android 6.0, Sony will eventually update to Android Nougat, but their upgrade cycles are usually slower than most other companies. We're already at 6.0.1, and a planned upgrade to Nougat Android 7 does exist, and it will happen soon, is what Sony is telling us. The UI is pretty simple and fast and responsive. You do get a whole lot of customization that Sony does give you with their traditional Timescape UI with a bunch of widgets and some applications. You also get some India-specific applications and Sony-specific applications that in case you don't want, you can turn off, including Sony Live, some downloads from Gameloft that you get free with the device. Mostly things that you won't be using, you can easily disable them, but you can't completely remove them from the OS. While a lot of companies have gone with a traditional stock Android feel, Sony continues to keep their Timescape UI, which is appreciated by a lot of people, but it does not give you the same kind of experience that you get with a more stockish Android feel. Now, phone networks are pretty solid. The device does support 4G across various bands, so you won't have any problems connecting to your 4G networks. You also get VoLTE or Voice over LTE. So for those who are interested in using this device with Jio, you will get that capability. Along with that, you get 2 SIM card slots, and if you're interested in popping in a micro SD card slot, you'll have to lose one of the SIM card slots. As far as battery life is concerned, the 2900 mAh battery did not last us a full day, and we required to charge the device at least twice a day. The good thing about that is that you do get Quick Charge 3.0, so the phone charges up fairly quickly, but you will require at least 2 charges a day if you're a medium to heavy user. Now let's jump onto the camera. This seems to be the most important aspect for Sony and for mostly Sony phones. The camera is pretty good and it produces sharp pictures with great colors. You do get a whole lot of features that are on the software, but personally the software seems a little bit cluttered up and clanky to us. To find 4K video, you have to jump into a completely different section that houses an app that allows you to click 4K video. But when you're shooting 4K video, you're not able to use the 5-axis image stabilization that is one of the best-selling features of the phone. The 5-axis image stabilization does work really well on the 1080p video, which is gyro assisted, and you get a really smooth video even if you're walking. Now, as far as images are concerned, you get a whole lot of features on that. You get predictive autofocus, hybrid autofocus, a bunch of focus capabilities that work really well for the Sony Xperia XZ. Especially at night, the laser autofocus works really well. Images in low light were not very sharp and had a lot of grainy noise on them. And this is due to the fact that the image processing capability of the XZ does not seem to be at par with many of the other flagships in the market, especially the way that the Samsung S7 Edge as well as the iPhone processes the images in low light conditions. The Xperia XZ does not even come close to that. But the 23 megapixel large sensor will allow you to get a lot of detail in your shots. If you're clicking shots in good light conditions, you'll find yourself to be quite satisfied with the result. Like I said, focusing is also really fast and you will rarely need to refocus or click an image again because you lost focus. If you're not holding your phone perfectly steady, you might end up with a blurry picture in low light conditions, which is another thing that needs to be mentioned because in low light conditions, the phone takes slightly longer to capture the image. The front camera, despite being a 13 megapixel camera, will only shoot 1080p video, not even 2K video or 4K video. Which might be a disappointment for a lot of people who wanted this to use the front camera for video recording. The front camera is decent, it's not the best that we've seen, and the wide angle lens is not as wide as we'd seen on the Samsung Galaxy S7 or the S7 Edge. Colors are equally good compared to the rear camera, and overall the only downside is low light image processing, which could possibly be fixed by a software update from Sony. Now the NFC on the phone, thanks to all metal body, sits on the front next to the earpiece, which makes it slightly awkward if you do use NFC, but otherwise it basically does not bother a user and it's just a sticker sitting on the front. If you want to remove that, you can. The sticker basically indicates where the NFC chip is located. Now overall, the Sony Xperia XZ does have a bunch of things that Sony has maintained: a good design, a really premium construction, the fact that it still has IP68 certification, which means that it's dust and water resistant, identical to the Samsung Galaxy S7 and the S7 Edge. Another great thing is that Sony Xperia XZ does come with an inbuilt 24-bit DAC, which means that if you're interested in high-res audio, if you do have high-res audio headphones, you can simply connect them with the Sony Xperia XZ and enjoy your music if you have high-res music on your device. While the Sony Xperia XZ tries to be a complete flagship, it's sort of failing at doing that. With a lot of phones already available in this price bracket and some exciting ones available for less like the Moto Z and the OnePlus 3, it becomes confusing for the buyer to what really choose. While Sony does offer up some reliability and great camera features, it does fail to deliver in some aspects, which is the display quality as well as low light image performance. If you have any questions or queries, you can drop them in the comment section below. You can also check out the full details on iGyaan.in. You can also catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. If you like this video, guys, give it a big thumbs up and make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. This has been Bharat. Thank you guys for watching.